Last week I stated how the debut episode of Westworld last week was a great episode. However, I feel like they took a step back with this episode. Like, it was still a good episode, it was a fine episode. In my opinion, I feel like they set up the world a little bit more. Unlike last week's episode, in this episode, they showed guests coming into Westworld and how they get into Westworld. However, this is one of the problems that is slightly bugging me with the Westworld TV series. I feel like they are copying some of the story from the 1973 film, and in some parts I don't mind it, but I don't want to feel like I'm watching the movie, because in this episode there are two guests that come into Westworld, and for those who saw this episode and the movie, you have got to admit these two characters are dead on similar. They are nearly the same characters, as one of these characters has been to Westworld before and knows how the world works, and the other character has no idea how the world works and has never been to Westworld before. These two characters are extremely similar to the characters in the movie. And for the second week in a row, Ed Harris's character was the best part of the show. Much like he did last week, here he steals the show. His character in this episode comes off more as a badass here, and I very much like Ed Harris's character here. And before I give my grade, one of my favorite moments in this episode is Anthony Hopkins' speech at the end of this episode. The speech that Anthony Hopkins gave was basically about why the guests come to Westworld, and it's definitely so far one of my favorite parts of this show, and only Anthony Hopkins can deliver a speech like this. Overall, while I feel like this is a step back from last week's episode, I do feel like they advanced the story a little bit more here. However, this episode is still a good episode. I liked it. And like I said, for the second week in a row, Ed Harris's character steals the show, and Anthony Hopkins gives one of the best moments in the show so far. So I'm just going to grade this episode average. So basically there was some stuff that I liked, however there were some stuff that I didn't like, and that is my final grade for this episode, average. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, be sure to like my Facebook page, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to my channel below. As always, I'm NETX5. Thank you so much for watching.